Go live, go live, go live.
I think
Did
my go
you
already
know, did you know that Diamond had a ransomware attack this week?
I saw it. I clicked on an article. I didn't get to read it, but I saw the headline on it earlier.
That's about all I saw too, except my one comic that
Mhm.
was supposed to come in this week didn't come in because Diamond couldn't ship.
Right.
So,
Yeah, there's been some interesting ransomware attacks here recently.
yeah.
I saw another article where a drone was used for the very first time to attack a U.S. electrical grid.
Wow. A drone.
A
Hmm.
drone.
What's interesting too, the one book I was supposed to get this week. What is it? I think it's one of those long titled ones that something's killing the children made so popular. Something like where's the furthest place you've been from here?
Something's killing my bank account when I buy this book every month. Right?
Yeah. And certainly if you buy all the various covers.
I don't see how people do that.
I don't know why people do that.
They must have more money than I do. Well, it's not Santa.
Obviously they do, or else some people just spend their go into debt and spend their money. I think it's a FOMO thing. I think it's a completist thing.
Well, I mean, even if it's a completist thing, they could. The one, God, I'm going to give Marvel credit for something. That's scary. It's like you remember when the Star Wars book came out, there was like 125
Right,
different
right.
variants. At least they published a comic that had all the variant covers printed in it.
Okay.
So
I didn't
no,
know
like,
they did that.
it's
That's good.
actual hardcover. It's like $10 or something. So if you wanted, you could get that. You know.
Yeah. I think that's a cool. I thought I thought it up years ago that if they made like a monthly comic of just all the best alternate covers, I might buy that. I'd pay $4 for a comic full of covers, maybe if I liked the covers.
It'd have to be like a name talent on the cover doing the
Yeah,
cover.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the whatever the best covers are for that month, 32 of them in one comic.
No, I mean like all time A list, not just whoever they've got doing it this month.
I'm just saying you like the covers. Now, well, we're not talking about your dream project.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm not.
It's a comic full of covers, and you'll probably like some.
That's the
It
thing. I
wouldn't,
would like
that
some
wouldn't
of
be
them,
a,
but I
that
can't think
wouldn't
of
be a
any.
bad purchase for $4. Is what I'm saying.
I can't think of any publisher that would have that many covers I would like in one given month these days.
I'm, I'm sure. How many covers do you see in one given month? I'm saying I bet they could put out a book like that. When you think about how many alternate covers there are out there, you could get like a book of Adam Hughes covers a month, just about. Or
Oh, if
Adam
they did
Hughes.
it, if they did it by artist, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying you could get a. There are so many. Like if they did one of those theme months, like Prince or they did that one. They put out a book of those, just like a. And I'm saying something cheap, not expensive. That
Yeah,
that would be a pretty.
I
That'd
wish they,
be like
I
printing
wish
money.
they'd do that and also not limit it to current stuff. Like
Yeah.
here's a book of covers by Kaluta or whoever it may be.
Whoever it may
Yeah, that
be,
would be
whatever
nice.
it may be. I'm saying that would be like even if it was just current ones, that would be like printing money because they don't cost you much. They're already done.
Right.
I don't know why they never. But anyway, this one comic that I didn't get because of the ransomware attack.
Mhm.
What's besides? I think the comic is like a post-apocalyptic comic where there's only
Aren't they all?
children. All the adults got killed and only children are left, or something like that. I read a preview of it and thought it was okay. But there was an interesting thing too that one version of it for $15 comes with a vinyl soundtrack. I was like, not a flexi disc even. It's supposed to be vinyl.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? That sounds interesting. I'll keep my eye out for it.
What would you do if you paid $15 for that and you got it and the music was just completely crappy?
I don't even have anything to play it on. It would just be a novelty buy for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I like cardstock covers too. I hate the self-covered comics.
Yeah, we're all of the
yeah. Any kind of cover
club.
stock. Doesn't even have to be cardstock. It can be anything a little thicker and more protected. But anyway, usually my I read that, read about this comic in Comic Shop Weekly a month or two ago, whenever it was. And I said, it also came with a download of the music too. I was like, you know what? I'll keep my eye open for that. Maybe if I don't have anything that week, I'll buy it strictly for its novelty.
Right.
So every week I get an email from my comic shop. Final order cutoff, which is the last chance you get to order any new comic, right. Because the final order cutoff is that Monday. And I was looking on the email when it came out, and the one with the vinyl in it wasn't in the email. And they have everything in that email. There's 1 in 200 variants that cost $200 or so. So they have, I expected it to be there, just because it's a little more expensive doesn't mean it won't be on the final order cutoff. And I just said to myself, oh, well, not getting that one, not pre-ordering that one. It doesn't matter. I just got the regular one.
There's one book that I see in previews that's solicited every month. I'll look through it, see what's coming out. It's like I don't remember it's a smaller indie publisher, but it's like Jungle Fantasy Girl, whatever.
Yeah, I've seen
and
that
just the sheer amount of cover variants they have are just
it's nuts.
Crazy.
It's nuts.
I mean, it's like, and variants on the same variant.
Yeah. Well, I think they have is that the one that has nude variants too?
Yes.
One of those.
And it's just like, what? Geez, guys, man, you get there are.
I guess
multi-million-dollar conglomerations that work in the dairy product that don't milk things that much.
I guess it's working for. I mean, put yourself in their shoes.
Must be.
You put yourself in their shoes. You put out a small press comic with one cover, and it sells 400 issues. You put it out with a dozen covers, sells 2,500 issues.
Probably all the same guy. Yeah.
I mean, how do you? That's what they have to do. But anyway, so I was at the comic shop this week, and Roy, the comic shop owner, was explaining to me, Ransom, your one comic wasn't in. I bought some stuff off the shelf, but and I said, oh, that one was supposed to come with they're supposed to have a version with vinyl too, right? Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, it's working. They wouldn't be doing it otherwise. I mean, I'm
probably buying them all. Yeah.
There's probably some companies it's keeping a lot. I mean, it's keeping a lot of companies alive.
Right.
Nude variants, sign me up. Yeah, you look on eBay for those comics with a nude variant. That's the only place I've ever seen them.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, I've seen them on eBay because most shops don't order them. I mean, if you want to make money, exactly. That's why you have to have all those variants. But anyway, my LCS owner told me that. He's like, I was like, oh, yeah, isn't that the one that comes with vinyl? And he's like, couldn't get that, can't get that. I was like, oh, why not? He said that they must have set their print run before final order cutoff. So that you couldn't order them. They were already sold. Whatever their print run was already sold before final order cutoff. So
that make you feel good.
I imagine that must make the company go, all right, we sold out. We're not going to lose money, but then it also might make them feel they missed the boat.
True. I just wonder what the lead time is when pressing all that vinyl is in comparison to.
Yeah, I imagine that takes time
on the books. Yeah.
Like I said, didn't even say it was a flexi disc. It said it was vinyl. I was like, whoa. I can only imagine what kind of lead time it takes to get that done.
Maybe it's like those flat soldiers that they used to have ads for in the back of the books where the vinyl is just like 2 millimeters thick. Yeah.
Who knows? I'll probably never see one, but
they can put the needle in and it pokes out the other side.
But I thought that was a neat idea. Even it's one of those ideas that really doesn't interest me in terms of the reality of it.
Right. It's more the novelty of it
but the novelty of it I find interesting. Like it was even what was that Sideways comic by J.H. Williams, Echo.
Yeah, I don't remember the title of it, but I really like the art on that one.
Right, really nice art. But he had like in the back there was like 4 pages of the music he listened to while making like, and something like that. It's like I have no interest in that. I just,
to me, it depends on what it is and who the creator is. Like when Eric Shanauer does Age of Bronze and he goes through and lists his bibliography.
oh well,
I love that kind of stuff.
Bibliography is different. Listen to me, like my musical taste is so far from general that it's kind of like it's tough for me to find something in someone's lists. Yeah. I think variants also help lock in certain channels. For example, I think DC uses a variant cover specific to their store online. Oh yeah, there are
several big stores do that.
Store specific. If you're a store for a certain amount of money, you can have your own variant.
Yeah. That's how a lot of those Star Wars comics got variants. They were store exclusives.
Yeah, store exclusive. But and I think the number is somewhere. I remember I heard it once. The number was somewhere up around 10,000 copies you had to order to get your own store exclusive variant. So it's not cheap.
No.
But in the end, it's not really that expensive either. Because I imagine
if you're a small store out in the middle of Montana,
yeah, I know some
midtown. Yeah.
Some stores got together and pooled their money to get a variant at different times. I remember that. But I'm thinking how much, because stores order stuff for around half of cover price.
Yeah, I think it's up to like 55% off, something like that.
So if you had to order 10,000, that'd be 20 grand you have to pay. Plus, you have to pay the artist, I think.
That's our $4 book, you know.
Yeah, it's for a $4 book. So I imagine it's, that's a fair amount of money. But if,
just think how many Jungle Girl variants you could get with that.
Yeah.
5 or 6.
It's been happening here. Locals partnering up to get an exclusive. Yeah, I mean, if you get 5 stores together, and that's $4 grand a store for exclusives, and you get your, what is that? If you get your 2,000 copies of your store exclusive, and you sell those for $10 a piece, that's what, 20 grand back? So your 4 grand can get you 20 grand. There's Paolo. How you doing this evening? Are you talking music?
I think he's got a USB connection. It's wonky.
First, when you talked, you said music came out, and now we can't even try talking again, Paolo. We got nothing. You're muted.
No, he's not muted.
You hear him?
No, if he was muted, he'd have a mute icon popping up.
Oh, well, I mean, his mic could be muted.
Okay, I should be on now.
Yeah, there you go. Can hear you now.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that's assuming you sell out all your variants.
Right.
That's Luke Han and R2D2.
Which one of
we're just trying to do the math on store variants and how much. I remember hearing the number a while ago that if you wanted a store variant, you would pay you would have to buy 10,000 copies of it. So if that's a $4 comic and the stores pay 50% off, that would be 20 grand plus whatever they pay the artist for the store variant. And where was it? Comic Crack was then I heard something about local stores partnering up to get a variant. So if 5 stores put in $4,000 each to make that $20,000, you got 2,000 copies that you sold for. If you could sell them for, I mean, $10 is actually not a lot for a variant. You might even be able to sell them for more.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it easier to just buy white covers and then hire a local artist to do a variant?
No, because you can't, because that's one.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have 2,000 of those. The whole idea is to get 2,000 of this variant that you can sell for, I don't know, $10 to $20 a piece.
But if it's a 1 in 25, you're never going to get 2,000 of those.
No, it's not a 1 in 25. It's you pay Marvel or DC to print your cover.
Mm-hmm.
So the store variants only go to a certain store. Like Mile High Comics can say, I want an Adam Hughes store variant. So you pay whatever Adam Hughes's going rate is for doing a cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay Marvel, you pay Marvel you pay Marvel for 10,000 copies of it.
I don't even want to think what
add that to their print run, 10,000 more copies with 10,000 copies of the Mile High variant, and they ship them all to Mile High Comics.
Mm-hmm.
That's no one else gets it.
Yeah.
What was that, Scott?
I don't even want to think of what Adam Hughes would charge for a cover these days.
Yeah. I picked up an Adam Hughes cover last week. Then you hope it becomes hot and you can make the Comic Addicts dream come true. Yeah.
And then you can slab that one issue like Terrence did.
Terrence is the mad slabber. He smells that green. He's going after the slab. Oh, yeah, it was last week. I think it's still out.
I'm going to get one of those Image 90s guys to do an exclusive variant cover. Then they'll be so happy that they get one job that they'll do it for free.
This is the one Adam Hughes cover I bought. The first one in a long, long time. Gun Honey with her no nipples.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some there, but there aren't.
So I remember when NN used to stand for no number in the Overstreet Price Guide. Now it's going to be for no nipples.
Comic Craft. Slavin' Mad Comic Crack. I grabbed that as well, Jared. I saw that's like a 4th printing. There was like a 3rd printing with a gold foil logo too. So they're printing that one. See that
Wow.
There's an example. They would sell one less copy except for that variant that sold to me. And just because it's a pretty picture. That's the only reason. Occasionally, matter of fact, last week and the week before, I bought that shiny something in the children's spin-off cover just because I liked the cover. But those are the first 2 just for their cover purchases I've had in a while.
All right.
Man, that first issue was a stinker. Yeah, the first issue wasn't too good. Speaking my language, slabs all day. We're ready for your market report. Yeah. Here's something I was reading. I took out of the library. And it's funny because I took it out of the library before I went to the comic shop. Then I was at the comic shop. There was a guy in front of me buying volumes, I think 1 and 2. This is 7 to Eternity by
not familiar with that one.
Rick Remender and Jerome Pena and Matt Hollingsworth.
Yeah, I need to buy that.
No, you don't.
I
Take
don't.
it out of the library.
Wow.
I usually like Rick Remender.
So do I. I find this. I'm not telling you it's bad. I'm just saying, especially the first volume is very bleak. Because and he's kind of throwing us into the story, and he's doing some things that I'm finding off-putting. Like it takes place on, it's a sci-fi fantasy story, so it takes place, Beautiful art, not great visual storytelling. I can tell. I was just reading the beginning of volume 2, and I wasn't able to follow what was going on visually. That's how Batman is up 30 points. That's the that's the market report. But it was like all these people, since they're on an alien world, they kind of have their own philosophies and religions. And they keep giving you little glimpses of that. But it just becomes kind of window dressing to me because they don't go into it. It's not explained. It's just, it's kind of like being thrown into the middle of a dinner party where everybody knows each other and you don't. And you kind of just have to sit back and listen and hopefully catch on to some of the stuff. There's a little bit of that go. Imagine they were in an entirely different culture, too. There's some of that going on with this when they keep making references to things, their religion, their philosophy, their point of view. I just have no idea what it is. I can kind of tell what it is in context. It's not like I'm completely lost with it, but it's just kind of like...
It's kind of like its own little pocket universe.
Yeah. What was that?
It's kind of like its own little pocket universe.
Yeah, it's its own little pocket universe.
That's kind of the same. Yeah, I got kind of that same feeling when I read Nexus the first time in terms of what was going on in terms of the political intrigue.
Right.
Didn't really interact with much of anything else outside of that.
Mm-hmm. But at least in Nexus, I understood the politics. Politics are politics.
Right.
And in this one, what's weird too is takes place in a world where this guy right here has conquered most of the world, and you don't know how he's conquered the world. It's one of those that doesn't lay stuff out until halfway through the book.
No, it's like The Walking Dead.
Now, Walking Dead only had to know with zombies. There was nothing to know in The Walking Dead. But in this, and because you're introduced to the father in this, who years ago knew this guy who conquered the world, and he wanted to. He wouldn't. It was like, and there was a war going on between a bunch of the people and this guy's forces. So there's like a war going on that this guy is winning, and the father in this book, the whole family is hated because the father won't fight. He's always like, "It's not my war." And he also this guy wins people over. They keep saying by he wants to bargain with you. And the father keeps saying, don't even listen to his bargain. And you don't know what that means at first. That whatever you do, don't even listen to his bargain. And you're like, what? And meanwhile, everybody who's losing the war hates this family because they kept moving further and further away. Hates the whole family because they won't fight. Father's just like, no, I won't have anything to do with that man. You're like, and he keeps saying, the minute you compromise your principles, you've lost. But we don't know what his principles are. I was never able to figure out what his principles are. I know his principles were not to even listen to this guy's bargain. His principles were also not to fight the guy. And it was just like baffling.
Yeah.
Eventually, he bites it from this guy's foot. That was another weird thing. This guy's supposedly powerful, too. This father. And then one day, one of this guy's henchmen shows up and just kills him. And you're like, well, if he hated him so much, why didn't he do that 20 years ago? Because they let it be known that like the villain has always been watching this guy, his old friend. He was his old friend, then turned. I don't even know what to call him. The only thing he did was not listen to this guy. So it was like the whole setup was weird. And then his son, this guy who's dying, decides to go off and hear this guy's bargain to try to save his own family. And then all sorts of stuff happens that doesn't always make sense. Like I said, like Mind the Comics just said, beautiful art, but not great visual storytelling. There's stuff that happened in here that I don't I don't really know what happened.
Gotcha.
And the art is often so detailed that figures just mash together. It's one of those things where I like the art; it's well done, but sometimes when you draw little lines and everything, we miss the important stuff because it's camouflaged by all the unimportant
So
stuff.
it's kind of like a Jeff Darrow background.
No, Jeff Darrow's stuff is very well delineated. This is
okay. I see what you mean.
he doesn't draw anything. He
So
all his lines are to delineate something. Not
okay,
just
so it's the
lines.
rendering that's
causing.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Let me see if I can find an example. Where's that one panel that I was showing off today?
Are you awake, pal?
I am awake.
He is awake. That's good. It is good to be awake.
Not always.
I can tell one character from another at times, just because they're so. I can't find it, but there was one panel in here of either one guy or two guys being cut in half. I couldn't tell because it was just kind of like a mishmash. And there's a lot of mishmash going on, but it's just from all. And then there's stuff like, remember when I said that it's very, very bleak, and also the lead character is dying. Not only does his father just die, not only is his whole family hated in this world, not only does he have to go and try and bargain with this guy, but But the seven from eternity, I guess, who are trying to kill him all. There's one point where they stop the story and see this big block of text right here, which I didn't even bother reading.
I don't think that coloring helps either.
No, the coloring does not help delineate things. But like that block of text was amongst 2 or 3 pages of everybody telling their bleak story of what this guy did to them. And it was just like, I skipped it. I don't need more bleakness.
Would those crowd scenes be clearer if they were in black and white instead of in that color?
No, I don't think so.
No, just wondering. Okay.
Some of it's just fine. Some of it is like stuff like this, like that panel, where a lot of the guys aren't human and don't really have a structure you can recognize. So it's really just kind of blobby shapes, and it's like, where's that? But then they give you something like Kirby-esque like that, where everything's nice and clear, but the guy's just standing there. And so, here's where the color doesn't help. This is just a shot of them, going away in their wagon, but it's all the same value. So it doesn't look like anything is moving into the background. And Matt Hollingsworth is a good colorist too, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this book, but the artwork, the storytelling is just confusing artistically. But from the library, it's worth a read. That's why I said Paulo doesn't have to rush out. It's not a recommendation from me, except from the library. I'm on volume 2 right now. So I got all 3 volumes out of the library, but I'm just on volume 2. I saw Jeff Darrow pencils hardcover at the shop the other day. It put it back, picked it up. Pencil. Yeah. That's all. Oh, and at the same time, I'm reading this. The Sleeper Omnibus. Which is really good. I've read this before. Really good stuff, and they have Point Blank in the beginning. And the storytelling has such clarity in here. Switching between them is like, oh man.
Who did the art on that?
This is Sean Phillips. This is the first Sean Phillips, Ed Brubaker.
That cover really reminds me of a Saul Bass title graphic.
It does. Now that you mention it, yeah, that is Saul Bass. That is. That is definitely his influence right there. And now I got a comic book geek question for you. I appreciate the sense of scale on that plat. Yeah, that splash page was good. Like the art, he's a good artist. I just don't think Sleeper is great from what I remember. Yeah, I've read a little Saul Bass name drop. Sleeper is very good. So is Point Blank, which is the run up to Sleeper.
Not Point Gross Blank, but Point Blank.
But the other thing I took out, that's why I love the library. I can take out stuff that I never would buy because I wanted to read some. I've never read Brubaker's X-Men, so I'm like, I'll read a little bit, see if it's any good.
I have that.
I read the first story. It was the first issue.
No, the best Brubaker X-Men is the one where Vulcan takes over the Shi'ar Empire, which is mildly connected to the rest of Dan Abnett's cosmic stories.
But the geek question that came up for me is, I remember in a Marvel team up many, many years ago, X-Men gotta run. and a Marvel team up many, many years ago, it was, I think, X-Men and Spider-Man teaming up. And at one point, I don't know, they got thrown out of a plane or something. I don't even remember. They're falling. They're a mile up, falling to their deaths, trying to figure out what you're going to do. And Cyclops says, Nightcrawler, you teleport to the ground. Nightcrawler says, I can't do that. Like, why? Well, the laws of physics. I'm traveling at 100 miles an hour. If I teleport, I'll still be traveling at 100 miles an hour, and I'll hit the ground quicker.
On inertia.
Right. Mm-hmm. Laugh out loud. Love the X-Men. That was how Nightcrawler worked back in my day. He couldn't teleport to some place he couldn't see, because otherwise he may end up half in and out of something. And if he was falling, he couldn't teleport out of the fall. But in this one, and it was just a casual thing in it, they're flying in the Blackbird, and Cyclops goes, Nightcrawler, you and Wolverine land, and Nightcrawler's like, gotcha, and he and Wolverine bamf out of there. And I was like, Nightcrawler can teleport from a moving airplane? I wouldn't think he would be able to do that.
If he knows where the target point is.
The airplane was.
Yeah.
There are some differences between the original X-Men story and the reprint that appeared in Classic X-Men.
Yeah.
Because in the first stories, Claremont hadn't figured out how all the powers were supposed to work. But then they became canon. So when they reprinted those stories in Classic X-Men, I'm hearing myself. When they reprinted them, they had an extra art that made the powers work in the way that they now understood.
So they retconned the powers, basically.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They didn't retcon the powers. They didn't establish them at the beginning. Then they established them the following issue. But then you reprint the comics, and you know how nerds are. You go, well, in comic so and so, you said that Nightcrawler couldn't teleport, but now it's so they were going to reprint, and so they added the extra pages of story.
I just wonder if anyone ever thought of that. If that was a deliberate change, or something that just happened and nobody noticed it happening.
Oh, if you went through and just superhero comics in general, and you started looking at physics, you could drive yourself bonkers.
But they specifically addressed this back in 1979 or something. That's why it struck me. I mean, I just have
the scenario you talked about was like if you teleport to the ground, he's got inertia. There's not a thing preventing him from teleporting back upwards.
Yeah, but the more up you teleport, the faster you're gonna start dropping.
Not after you hit terminal velocity.
Yeah, I have a friend who was buying the classic X-Men just for the backups back in the day.
The backups were nice. They published a few of them in the Brazilian magazines.
Yeah, I used to read
filler.
back a long time ago. Not now.
That's the first time I saw John Bolton.
Mhm.
Oh boy, the first. The
It's all
first
make believe, but you got to come up with rules for your make believe too to make us believe it. If you don't make us believe it, it's not. What is it? It's not make believe. The key to make believe is making us believe.
I was trying to think of the first time I saw John Bolton, and it must have been Epic Illustrated.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Murata the She-Wolf. Yeah, it must have been an epic.
Maybe, yeah.
I can't remember what he did back.
Well, I think the Epic stuff was printed before Black Dragon came out.
Yeah, it was because I knew I picked up Black Dragon because of John Bolton, so I had to have known him.
That's got some really nice art in it too.
He did Murata at Epic Illustrated before the Classic X-Men backups, I think, or I can't remember the exact timing, but I think it was.
Yeah.
But Black Dragon was definitely after the Classic X-Men.
No. Yeah, Bolton's art in those stories was really nice. He hasn't done anything in a long time, has he? He finished Murata the She-Wolf, I think.
God, the last thing I remember him doing was like a project with Neil Gaiman over at Dark Horse.
I remember like 10 years ago seeing something about him finishing up Murata the She-Wolf and putting out a Kickstarter version. But
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about that. I didn't know.
that was a while ago. Yeah. Characters that break their backstory is tough. Remember when Miller changed how violent Dee Dee was? A lot of older readers got upset. Yeah. Older readers are always going to get upset at change. That's the eternal problem of corporate-owned comics.
Well, a talented writer could do it. He'd just have to do it in a way that made it seem the natural progression. It wasn't.
Yeah, but
I don't find becoming the strip becoming more violent. I don't find it that jarring a change. It's fairly easy to come up with a reason where that happens. You don't even have to come up with a reason. It just has to do with the way you draw, and Frank Miller drew it like that.
A lot of Silver Age guys didn't like the change, though, is what it was.
Sure.
I remember that.
I can understand that.
Because I was a kid, I liked it. I was young. I wasn't a Silver Age guy.
Yeah, I had Frank Miller when I was 6, so I never missed it.
I was buying Daredevil, Frank Miller Daredevil off the stand. I was lucky. I had issues of Daredevil, but I first started buying it regularly about 2 issues before Frank Miller took over. So I got to see it from the jump. There are some comics that were just really great to be buying off the stands when you were 10 to 15. And that was one of them. X-Men, John Byrne X-Men was another one. Just great. There's just such a difference between, reading it now, reading it for the first time as, when you're 20.
Sure.
And it's a whole thing. And buying it off the stands month to month when you're 12. It's all fresh and new when you're 12. Not quite the same. Yeah, we loved it. Blood, baby. Lots of blood. Well, not really blood because of the comics code, but yeah, people actually getting hurt and dying. That was one of the first places I have. What is the name of it? The inverse law of ninjas or something like that, which is when you only see one ninja, he's going to be a real badass. If you see 100 ninja, they're cannon fodder.
Yeah.
And they were real cannon fodder. And
yeah, the early issues of the Tick really parodied that really hard. The Tick would come off and you just brush him off, and he's like pesky ninjas.
Yeah. Yeah, someone like said it's called like the inverse law of ninja or something like that. And it applies not only to ninjas but to other bad guys. But
sure, Hydra.
I was just thinking, other than martial arts related books, was that really the first American superhero book that you saw? What's the word I'm looking for? A critical mass of ninjas in?
What book?
Daredevil?
Yeah, Daredevil was the first. Yeah.
Because you remember the 70s ended, and Chinese kung fu craze morphed into Japanese karate craze. So now people wanted Japanese stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we had American Ninja.
Klaus Janson on that Daredevil stuff. He was perfect for that. He did a really good job.
There was one thing that people don't credit Frank Miller for, but Frank Miller was the one that crystallized the Punisher's design.
Yeah.
In the Child's Play storyline. Now, Frank had drawn the Punisher in that Captain America cover where the Punisher meets Cap for the first time, but he still has the normal design that had appeared in Spider-Man and in the black and white stories. And then in Child's Play, the one that's published in 183 and 184, the Punisher appears with the belt buckles design fully integrated into the skull.
Ah, okay.
It already looked like teeth, but it didn't look like real teeth. Now it was fully integrated. And it's a small change.
Yeah, he tweaked the graphic design on it to make it famous.
Yeah, it's a small change, but it's what makes it.
Right. You're right. Now that I think about it.
So now police departments everywhere can do copyright infringement.
Yeah.
The thing that was stupid about the Punisher back then, and this was after the Daredevil appearance, that run on there was a story arc on Spectacular Spider-Man where the Punisher goes crazy and he starts shooting jaywalkers.
Oh yeah.
And then in the end of the storyline, he's arrested and is in the courtroom being arraigned. And is being arraigned as the Punisher. So it was only in the mini-series that Stephen Grant finally came up with a secret identity for him. Jerry Conway never bothered.
So Jansen, there's some Jansen did like I don't think it's printed anywhere yet. He did like an 8-page backup story for Bad Idea, who I'm doing the production on. And I think it's some of the best Jansen I've seen. He's doing pencils and inks. I haven't always been fond of his pencils, but he did such a nice job on this like 8-page.
I can't even remember the last time I saw him pencil something.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I was like, wow, this is some really nice stuff. Yeah. Japan and their cars, cameras, and stereos were invading everything Japanese. Yeah, Japan was going to buy up everything in America in the 80s. That was they were like, hot and popular, and also there was pushback against the Japanese
big time. Yeah.
Evening comic people.
Do you know what made Japanese cars cool in the United States? Paul Newman.
Yeah. Okay.
Because Paul Newman, when he wasn't shooting films on his off days, he was a racing driver.
Yeah,
and he even won one SCCA national championship. And in the second half of the 1970s, he was a works driver for Datsun.
Okay.
He was part of the Electromotive Datsun team. So those were the cars he drove. And he was the one that made Datsun cool. Paul Newman drove it. The petrol heads noticed. Petrol heads say, Paul Newman's driving the Datsun. The Datsun is cool. It's cool. And then they told the normal people, you should buy a Datsun.
You should buy a Datsun. So this week, like I said, there was only one comic on my pull list, and it didn't come in. So I picked 4 comics off the shelf just because I like trying new things. But the first one is called Provenance of Secrets. It's Black Caravan, which I think is an imprint of something, isn't it? Scout comic. I think it's the horror imprint of Scout comics. And usually on my Instagram, I post what comics I bought this. Besides YouTube, I do like a quick 30-second what comics I bought, and I tag all the comics. So I think it was the writer or the artist, I forget which one, thanked me for buying this comic. I was like, oh, okay.
Cool.
But it's a sort of noir horror, and it's all told in narration. There are no word balloons, no
That's different.
it's all narrations. That was a little weird and different.
So it's kind of like Blade Runner.
Yeah. No, there's actually dialogue in Blade Runner. There's no dialogue at all.
Sure.
And it's this guy hunting down, he's a cop hunting down a mysterious death. There's this, it was a decent, it actually reminded me of 1980s comics. Because it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was quite professional. It had that veneer of talented amateur to it, which I kind of liked. Not everything has to be slick and professional. So, I mean, they were trying their best, and they got me involved in it, and I kind of liked it. Even the cover's not the best. The logo's not the best.
Something I like about the cover, but I can't.
Yeah, it reminds me of.
I can't put my finger on it on what it is.
It might be homaging something. That's why we like it.
If it is, it's not obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great interview with Klaus on cartoonist kayfabe. Oh, okay. When Paul Newsman was asked the reason for his successful man, Johann likes ballet, I drive cars. I like the idea of less narration. It kind of annoyed me, but it was well written, so I was okay with it. Yeah. And good evening to everyone. Hey, Gore. I don't know how much I could take of everything being narration, but for one issue, it was fine. I enjoyed reading it. Maybe I'll pick up a second issue. I'll see. But it was it was pretty cool. Matte finish. I don't know what. I guess some companies like the matte finish cover. I've noticed lately. And it's written and lettered by Kieran Tagan and illustrated by Christian Dabari. Colored by Simon Go. Gough. That's a long way to go to get Go.
Please tell me his middle name is Van.
Let's see, where's this one from? Looks like it's creator owned. And occasionally there's stuff like this is the stuff that makes me think it's kind of amateur. Is this the type work on that sign? Like oh, that's someone who doesn't really know type work. Right. But he's putting the computer word. There's another one. There's another. You can tell someone doesn't know how to, like on that. They know how to use the program to make the type in perspective, but they don't know how to blend it in with the rest of the art properly.
I think they could use a different font to better effect too.
Yeah. And the lettering was also a little too big.
It's kind of like one of the choices that you don't really notice the lettering unless it's bad.
It wasn't bad. It was just slightly large. There was no reason for it to be that big. It just looks a little big to me. So, but that's stuff when you haven't made a lot of comics and you're not you don't have an editor who's made a lot of comics that you don't know, that you learn as you go along. But I kind of appreciated that. What do the kayfabe guys call it? Outlaw comics. This had a little outlaw comics vibe to it, which I haven't seen in a while. Because everybody tries to make their comics so professional. that sometimes they can get slick and sterile, like the small press guys, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, Fantagraphics is having a big online sale on Monday, 11/15.
Yeah, I got an email about that.
I actually ordered a Fantagraphics book. Like I said, every week I get the final order cutoff from my comic shop.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't always have every publisher on there. He always had Marvel and DC and Image and Dark Horse and IDW, but he didn't always have like some of the smaller ones. He started putting some of the smaller ones like Scout Comics on.
Mm-hmm.
And Fantagraphics. I think it was a Gary Panter book showed up, an actual comic, not a book. I was like, oh, I'll try that. Oh, really? They're always tempting, but then I see the shipping. Yeah, from the U.S. to Canada.
Yeah.
Gotta be a lot. Anyone read Second Chances? I don't think I've read that one. You guys know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Nope.
I remember looking through the new previews online, and Fantagraphics had one book that I thought looked interesting, but for life of me, I can't remember what it was or what it was about now.
Yeah, I haven't actually. The only Fantagraphics book I've bought in a while is the Ed Piskor one.
Lefty Blues nailed it. It was the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
The Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. I actually bought a collection. It's up there somewhere, of the Freak Brothers, but I never made it all the way through it. I made about halfway of it and put it on the shelf and somehow never picked it up again.
It's also a very acquired taste, too.
The cartoon, the Freak Brothers cartoon. Okay. What
Freak
about
Brothers cartoon's been out for a while now.
We have Demons on Comixology. I don't know what that. Yeah, The Strange Life of Alex Raymond is on my my wish list on Amazon. See, this time of year I can't buy anything off my wish list on Amazon because my family might be buying me stuff from it at Christmas time. So it's like there's stuff that comes out in like October, November. I'm like, if I might get it for Christmas, I might not. If I don't, I can get it next year. The Strange Life of Alex Raymond is one of those. King Spoet in the house. Capullo and Snyder. Oh, that's who does Demons on Comixology. Okay. Oh, I think I remember. Did that one come out from Image a little while ago, I think? It wasn't on Comixology? Another one that's on my wish list that I can't get. Have you guys seen that? I don't know who wrote it. It's Fantastic Four #1. They print one panel on every page. And the writer, whoever it was, talks about. I don't know. I think it has got a lot of Tom Brevoort stuff in that too. Have you ever seen Tom Brevoort's blog on?
No, never have.
Unfortunately, he's usually not a very good writer. Most of his blog posts I don't read, but he's got blog posts on like analyzing like Fantastic Four #1. Trying to figure, because there's mysteries to Fantastic Four #1, historical mysteries.
No.
Like, was it really made to be Fantastic Four #1, or was it made to appear in one of the anthology books and they cobbled it together into Fantastic Four #1? Mm-hmm. And the original art disappeared a long time ago, so any clues they might get from that is gone. But there's a lot, besides Tom Brevoort, there's a lot of people who have spent a lot of time analyzing Fantastic Four #1.
Right.
This book does that too, so I find that interesting. Amazon Comixology, gotta run. Fanta is also doing a Squeak the Mouse reprint last year. It was a Dark Horse book, that Capullo and Snyder one. Okay. Did you read any of those books from your from the con yet, Paolo?
I'm reading the Elric book, which is the one that has the first English language appearance of Elric's first comic book story.
Okay.
It even has a an intro by Drouillet explaining how he managed to draw that, because he had a friend translate Elric for him because he couldn't speak English.
Right.
And I think it kind of sounds weird nowadays that one of the most important editors slash artists in French comics in the 1960s didn't speak English, but it was fairly common in the 1960s for even the French intellectuals not to speak English.
They were snobby about it.
Imagine a lot of the words in the Elric books wouldn't have been easy to translate either.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Oh, and I have to show you my continuing paste up, mash up Magic the Gathering project. This week.
Magic the Pasting.
Get away. You frighten me.
This week, for a lot of things.
I decided I wanted to do an entire Magic the Gathering deck, 60 cards, lands and everything. But I didn't want to make a deck. So for 10, it was cheap, for $10, I ordered the Magic the Gathering Arena Starter Kit that comes with 2 decks. So I took Hulk 228 and, like I said, a battered old copy. The French don't want to speak English? Sacre bleu. So I took Hulk 228 with Moonstone and chopped it all up and put each panel on a card. And, I just, whatever panels would fit. There's the Hulk throwing stuff. And, of course, what the devil do you think you're doing out here? There's a little General Thunderbolt Ross. Like I said, I don't know why this continues to amuse me so much, but it does. And sometimes I like just finding like little phrases, not even the whole balloon. Reconcile with Glenn.
This is definitely better. There's a Facebook group about comics out of context, right. And that's perfect.
Yes,
for it. Yeah.
Then nothing will save you from the Hulk. And this is such a weird. This is an issue from when I was a kid. I still have my copy on my shelf. The Hulk just saying, "Friend." And it's such a weird issue because it's all about Moonstone breaking into the Gamma base to steal something, but then she can't fight the Hulk, so she starts like using. She's like, "Ooh, I have to outsmart him or something," and she starts like acting like a scared little girl, which just all of a sudden starts confusing the Hulk. He's like, "Metal woman is little girl." It's just so he stops fighting and she blasts him, and it's just such a weird.
Just think you could become the Banksy of the Magic the Gathering universe.
Goodbye, McCracken. Because some of them just work. Here's a whirlwind 12-city tour following his rehabilitation. This was like a local magician who wanted to bring the Hulk on tour with him.
Yeah, that'll go over well.
Now I am wondering if you did a good job marrying those pictures to the stats.
Trusting fool? No, not to the stats. I tried to marry them to the sort of the general concept of the card, but you can't, sometimes they're just weird.
Right.
Like, here she is sneaking into the place, and the soldier's saying, "Hi, Carla. I'll have those papers ready for you first thing in the morning. Thanks, Bill. You're a doll." On a Dauntless Survivor card. But it's like,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, she's a survivor. She's sneaking in. But it's like, I get it to match as close as I can. Like, there's a few in here named Rabid Bite that I had her hitting the Hulk.
Yeah.
But I like, first time I've made 60 cards in a row, an entire deck. And I was just like, whoa. Hello, are you familiar with Franco Sodelli?
I can't say that I am. Tell me about him.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Pull Hulk out of a hat. None of us here know Franco Sardelli.
No.
Wish I would have kept mine. The only one I didn't put something on was this is the foil card. So 59 of the cards have new art. But I was like, you know what? The foil, I don't want to wreck the shiny foil. I may as well leave that. This will be a riot for the closing spot on tonight's news. Bunch of random reporters talking. I also put, as well as signing them, I put what issue it came from, just so you know. I don't want to be Roy Lichtenstein and not credit anyone.
Oh, God.
Instead of keeping his magic cards, he kept his Middle Earth collectible card game.
Those the Middle Earth cards can be worth some money.
Not like Magic. Oof.
Maybe.
No.
Not like the early Magic, no, but you might be surprised how Tolkien collectors are nuts, man.
I know, but Magic the Gathering, there's cards worth tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Unopened boxes worth tens.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. It's the king of cards being worth something. Well, Pokemon's pretty up there too, but I think Magic is still the king of. Like I said, I watch a channel on YouTube that's Alpha Investments. It's just about this guy who invests in Magic cards.
Yeah.
Or at least part of his investments is in Magic. He's a financial guy. But when I mean invest, he buys pallets of unopened boxes. Because it turns out unopened boxes have turned into the most valuable part of Magic the Gathering. Because the number is always dwindling. There's a limited number of unopened boxes of early Magic the Gathering. There'll never be more, and every time someone opens one, there's fewer boxes.
Every time somebody opens an early box of Magic the Gathering, one Magic the Gathering collector dies.
It's like Highlander.
Mm-hmm. Or like when you clap in Tinkerbell dies.
Yeah, Shot Up Valley. I've just been holding on to some of them for 20 years, hoping I'd eventually find some.
When Iron Crown Enterprises did the first Tolkien role-playing game, some of the original supplements for those are like thousands of bucks each now.
Yeah. Speaking of opening something up, this is the other comic I pulled off the shelf, Cherry Blackbird. I kind of liked the cover, and there's a few others. This is like issue 4. There was a few others that. Now you also have to imagine this came wrapped in plastic, as if it was an adult comic. So I was like, all right, I'll buy a wrapped in plastic comic just because there is some nudity in it, but it is the least erotic nudity you'll ever see.
Chance is gonna be disappointed.
So it's like going to a nudist beach.
It's like going to
a nudist
beach
community.
It's like going to a nudist beach where no one's even trying to be attractive. They're just there. And
nobody is trying to be attractive. The average age of people in nudist beaches is like 60.
Yeah, no, I actually have an aunt and uncle who are nudists, and I think she just turned 80.
Oh boy.
So now the least erotic whose G.G. Allen comics come out. Oh, okay.
God.
I came across one of Franco's books, and he's similar to Milo Manara, but more comic. Okay.
I can see that.
Okay.
Just like Laura Palmer. There
was
an erotic nude.
There was a Twin Peaks fanzine that was called Wrapped in Plastic.
I was very disappointed in this too. But once again, there was very much an 80s outlaw comic thing going on, because the art in this isn't even as good as it was in Providence Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Provenance Secrets. So it was even more outlaw, because they were trying to be violent, but it was pretty middle of the road. Like this guy down here, that's as 80s outlaw comics as it gets. He's supposed to be like, disintegrating and all gross, but he's not quite drawn well enough to be all gross. But the guy's
kind of looks like Newman with a buzz cut.
Then he blows his own head off. Once again, it's trying to be outlaw.
Yeah.
For the record, I am not attractive on or off a nudist. Black Kiss, thought he was trying to be erotic. Like, what was that one? I'm very
porn. Just that wasn't erotic. It was porn. Yeah.
Yeah, Chaikin is the one who did Black Kiss. But I was like, what? That one that I bought, I think a few months. Well, I didn't buy it, Mike. Elsie, remember when I was showing that one off a couple months ago? It was some actually, one of those erotic comics. I can't remember the name of it now. That had, sex drawn in it. XXX comic.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was no reason to remember it because it wasn't that good. But my talk around it was I enjoyed it because it's like those are the last comics that are really trashy. No one it's like there's no value to those sex comics at all in society thinks, which is what they used to think of all comics.
Yeah.
So they're kind of flying under everybody's radar, and they really are trashy. Instead of choosing trashy as an aesthetic, which everybody does, they're just actual trashy, and it's tough to find actual trashy. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it, but it still wasn't very good.
Gotcha.
It's not like I bought any others. Picked up Times Squared a few weeks ago. I don't know if I ever read that one or not. That was like a
Now that is something I haven't seen in the wild in ages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that a series or a graphic novel or both? I remember there was a graphic novel of it.
Two graphic novels.
Okay. The DC graphic novel. I'm attracted. No nudist beaches in Texas. I think it's a conspiracy. I think Texas is a conspiracy. But
Texas isn't real. It's just a crisis actor.
Yeah. Don't mess with nudist beaches in Texas.
Times Squared was a graphic novel.
I
can just reach over here and randomly pull out a Hulk card. There we go. What's the name of this one? Vampire Spawn. Who would win in a Hulk?
No wonder Hulk is mad.
Who would win in a fight, Hulk or Vampire Spawn?
Hulk.
Is there a Vampire Spawn? I think there is. There was just a vampire in Spawn.
No, there was. I remember the ads for a Spawn the Impaler miniseries.
Okay. Because in the last issue of Spawn, there was a vampire. But it wasn't Vampire Spawn.
Are you sure it wasn't a Spawn?
No, I'm sure it wasn't a Spawn because He was that because the vampires were trying to ally with Spawn against something. I don't know. Spawn's got. I've been reading Spawn for 10 issues now. There's some big overall plot going on. I don't know what it is.
You have no idea what it is, do you?
Something about some bad guys trying to take over. I don't know.
Maybe Todd will think about it in 3 or 4 months.
And how much? That Spawn's what? Still $2.99.
Still $2.99. That's why it's on my
So
pull
you
list.
spent almost $30 on a story that you have no idea what's going on.
No idea. And I feel good about it.
Okay. Makes that library look more and more attractive.
Hey, that's
The tagline, Spawn. If you can't figure it out, we can't either.
Hey, that's why I like the library. I can get X-Men book out of it that I'll never read. I think that X-Men came out like 2007. It's old. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa. I forget books I'd never read get old.
Mm-hmm.
There's more of them every month.
And I also took out the, which I think is out of print, the hardcover version of Marvel Visionaries Steve Ditko. I haven't looked. I might do a video of looking through that one. The soft cover version of it available. But I think the hardcover is out of print. If there are nude speeches in Texas, you'd be sure some dudes with bigger. You'd be sure the dudes they'd be naked except for a pistol. Spawn, you're here for the pictures. There you go.
And even that.
No, I'm actually there. I actually started buying it because the artist is pretty good. I've checked in on Spawn I've never bought Spawn regularly until now. And I've checked in on it over the years, and I've never liked the art. I actually started buying it because I was like, all right, this art's not bad. I'm not telling you he's my favorite artist, but he's solid. He does a decent job. Unlike other artists who I couldn't even follow the story. Mm-hmm.
Well, enough Spawn. Let's talk about Savage Dragon. Or not.
Let's not.
Yeah, Savage Dragon definitely does not have a plot.
Well, it doesn't have an overall plot. Savage Dragon is about the day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
And each little story or story arc has a plot. But there's no overall, or there doesn't need. It's like Savage Dragon is an old school comic. It's like Bronze Age Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Except
starring Malcolm Dragon and his
except
his stereotypically Asian wife.
Yeah. Well, she's a little crazy. I don't think she's stereotypical. If that's the stereotype is not. She's sex crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that. It's as if Spider-Man aged in real time, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Rip, Reed, and Slab? I got one for you. Let's do one. Let's see what we should do. Ooh, what do we have up front? Speaking of Spawn, we have got Image Comics May 1988.
Can I just rip all three?
Nope, that's not the game. Wetwork 40, Savage Dragon 49, Witchblade 22.
Flip a coin.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I was buying Wetworks at that time, but it's got a Stormwatch.
Nobody ever bought Wetworks.
No, I bought Wetworks for I don't know how many issues. I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I actually have an opinion now.
Okay.
I'm going to read Wetworks because I don't know a damn thing about it.
Okay.
Don't know. I'm going to slab Savage Dragon and I'm going to rip up Witchblade.
Okay. So I used to buy. There's two books I bought in the 90s just because, I bought like in the mid 90s, Wetworks and Cyberforce. And I probably bought 20 to 30 issues. I mean, I bought them for a few years. I probably bought 20 to 30 issues of them. And, they were just on my pull list because I needed something to buy, and they were okay.
The title Cyber Force always makes me think of Cyber Frog.
The Ethan Van Sciver book?
Whoever.
I think you do. I'm going to go with reading Savage Dragon, slabbing Witchblade, and ripping Wetworks.
Wetworks at the nudist beach. Read. The CDC slabbers would laugh. Read Savage Dragon, rip Wetworks, and rip Witchblade. Said, no, you can't do that. If you're not going to play the game, the game is you have to do one. You know what? I think I'm going to slab the Savage Dragon just because I like the Savage Dragon. And I'm going to rip up Wetworks and read Witchblade because I've only read one issue of Witchblade. The last issue.
Yeah, but I've read more than one issue of Witchblade, which is why I'm not interested in reading more.
I imagine if I was really interested in reading more, I would have read some. But I bought the last issue of Witchblade just because it was the last issue of Witchblade. I was just at the comic shop one week. It was a slow week. I looked up on the shelf, and the last issue of Witchblade, and I never saw issues of Witchblade. There were never shelf copies of Witchblade at my LCS. And I was like, oh, last issue. And of course, that thing in my head where like everybody's like, last issues are hard to find. It's like, you know what? I'm going to buy the last. I was like, I have no other issue of Witchblade, but I'm going to have the last one.
I remember seeing issues of Witchblade all over the place back in the day.
Marry Savage Dragon, fuck Witchblade, and kill Wetworks. Rip Wetworks, read Savage Dragon, and slab Witchblade. Oh, a Witchblade slab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Slab Witchblade, great cover.
Because they're breaking the point of the artifact, which is the Witchblade doesn't attach to men, and there it's being attached to Ian Nottingham.
Okay. Stormwatch was always my favorite of the early Image books because it was one of the first books to introduce kind of world politics into a superhero book. Because Stormwatch was a UN super team. And that's why it eventually got turned into the Authority. The whole political angle eventually turned it into the Authority, which got...
I don't think that Jim Lee understood exactly what the United Nations are supposed to do and why they would never ever at any point agree to having a paramilitary force out in the open.
Well, they weren't out in the open most of the time. That's
I
why they had to get permission to go into countries and interfere. And sometimes they had a politic to get that permission.
I wouldn't accuse any of the main Image guys as being great writers back then either.
No. Well, he wasn't writing Stormwatch. Brandon Choi was. That's a Michael Turner cover on Witchblade. I was just wondering that. Young Blood.
Yeah, Michael Turner drew Witchblade. He was the regular artist.
I didn't even that. I probably knew that at one time, but that knowledge has slipped from my mind.
The thing is, Michael Turner on Witchblade was a terrible, terrible artist.
Yeah.
He over-abused the splash pages, and then we was writing Christina Z. Christina Z, yeah, she had those text blocks that you like so much.
Yeah. King Spoet has the feeling that there are many things Jim Lee did not understand. Could be. And Stormwatch with me, like I said, it was the first Image book I started picking up. I didn't try out any of those Image books till like issue 4 or 6. And then I went back. If I liked it, I went back and got the early issues because they were everywhere. You they sold millions, so they were always in the back issue bins for near cover price.
What?
And I was
you mean that that no shop owner used Wizard's price guide to try to sell you Wildcats #1 for $25 or something?
They did not.
They'd have to pay me $25 to take it.
You got to learn somewhere, Paolo. I actually bought Wildcats #1. What it was I didn't buy, once again, until issue 5 or 6, I didn't buy Wildcats. Then I started buying it. It was, like I said, it was okay. And then they put out 1, 2, and 3 or something in like a little trade paperback, almost like a perfect bound one. And I got that, and I had that for years and years. Until like 10 years ago. I was like, why don't I just buy Wildcats 1 through 4? Because it's like I got them from mycomicshop.com for like $1 a piece. I'm like, why not just buy that? I want to see what they look like. They're shiny covers and stuff. But they're like so dirt cheap. I was like, why don't I just get them now? And I did. But my Stormwatch story is, like I said, it was my favorite. But then somewhere around in the 20s, Ron Lim started drawing it. Now, I don't think Ron Lim is terrible, but I'm not much of a Ron Lim fan. And all of a sudden, I was like, after like 2 or 3 issues, I'm like, I can't have a Ron Lim book on my pull list. And I dropped Stormwatch. And then years later, just to be a completist, I got those Ron Lim issues. Because I started picking up Stormwatch again when Warren Ellis took it over.
Well,
Then all of a sudden I had a big hole in my Stormwatch collection, which was there for 10 or 15 years until finally I picked them up for dirt cheap. And they're not good issues.
right.
They're not good issues. Ron Lim didn't even do all of them. Other mediocre people did them. But like between issue like 20 and where Warren Ellis started writing it with Tom Rady drawing it, there's just not great stuff. Let me stop sharing. Not good. And the second volume of Stormwatch Team Achilles was actually pretty good too. There was at the comic shop at the time, this guy Chris was the one who was running it. He was working there the whole time. Roy wasn't there day to day. And Chris's tastes were more mainstream than mine. So our taste didn't cross over much, except for the book Stormwatch. And he was like, "Oh, did you read Stormwatch Team Achilles or Volume 2, whatever it was?" I'm like, "I read some of it, but I never got it all." And he's like, "Oh," so he started hunting, like in the shop, because they were like dirt cheap, of course. Whenever he found them, he'd pass them on to me. So I filled in all the missing Stormwatch issues from Volume 1, I think from him, and from Volume 2 I was missing. So now my Stormwatch collection is complete. At least the Image one, not the DC one. Did you guys ever read any of those early Image stuff?
I think the earliest Image stuff I read was when Alan Moore started doing the 1963 books.
Okay.
I bought the first 4 issues of Wildcats and Cyberforce because there was a Brazilian publisher who put them out. They also got the rights to do a Wizard magazine.
Okay.
And the Brazilian Wizard magazine was a lot better than the American one because it had about 30% new editorial material, and they didn't bother with the giant price guide.
I don't remember which came out first, but my first Image books might have actually been when Jeff Smith took Bone over to Image for a little while.
Okay. I think the 1963 was first.
Might have been.
But yeah, Wizard, I think I was too old for Wizard.
Yeah, it had kind of a really frat boy kind of mentality to it when you're used to reading other magazines.
And I was working at Marvel at the time, so it's not like I needed inside information from Wizard.
Right.
But if I was, 14 years old and living in Kenosha, I imagine I'd like Wizard a lot.
Right.
Some of the art lessons in Wizard were pretty good too. They had like Bart Sears.
Yeah, they had the occasional decent article, but it wasn't, to me, it wasn't worth buying. The signal to noise ratio was too high, or too low in this case.
Wildcats was by far the best. See, I prefer Stormwatch, but I can see why people would prefer Wildcats.
Yeah, Stormwatch came out about a year after Wildcats.
Yeah, was that long?
Yeah, so it wasn't part of the initial run. The initial run was Rob did Youngblood, Todd did Spawn, Larson did the Savage Dragon miniseries, Jim Lee did Wildcats, and Valentino put out Silvestri did Cyberforce as a miniseries, but
Shadowhawk, was it
in Shadowhawk by Valentino.
Valentino, right.
And those were the first 6. Portasio was supposed to be there, but he had a family emergency in the Philippines and couldn't put out Wetworks for 2 years.
I still find it amazing that Jim Valentino became like a big superhero artist at Marvel with Guardians of the Galaxy. Because he was this indie Bigfoot comedy guy with, Normal Man.
Yeah.
So that was really strange. Strike Force.
All credit for his design.
Codename Strike Force was Brendan Peterson's book at Top Cow. It was like they were mercenaries.
Yeah.
And it was the guy with 4 arms from Cyberforce that put the team together.
I think I've read a couple of issues of that. Witchblade crossed over with the Darkness. Yeah, they were both Top Cow books, right?
The thing is, after the original superhero titles, they kind of stopped mattering, and then Silvestri has the problem with Liefeld being there, and he takes his books out of Image, and that's about that time that they put out the Darkness and Witchblade. Not exactly at the same time, but pretty close. And it's I don't think at the beginning they were planning on having a universe.
Oh, the Pit! I forgot that one. That was a later one.
94, I think. But I don't think they were planning on having any universe. But the 2 titles kind of meshed well together.
Yeah, I liked Stormwatch was my favorite of them too. Yeah, there was and Mark Teixeira did The Union or something like that earlier. That was a later one too. That was a couple of years later. I remember that just popped into my head. So they had like a lot of people. Larry Stroman did the story I always heard. I have no idea if this is true. Is that Larry Stroman did The Tribe and made like so much money he stopped drawing comics. He made like $1 million doing The Tribe, and there's only like 4 or 5 issues out. That he just, and I think that happened with a lot of those early. All of a sudden, they had a lot of money in their pocket and didn't want to be chained to their drawing boards. Loved all of Liefeld's 2nd and 3rd tier extreme books like Brigade and Bloodstream. I actually, Giffen's Trencher.
I read an issue of Newman
any day.
I actually liked some of those to a point. And the point was because I was never a Liefeld fan. But like I said, I was trying out a whole bunch of Image books like 6 months after they started. I was like, you know what? I should try some of these Image books. Why not? Because I kind of had ignored them for 6 months. It was like, hey, Image, who cares? Then I was like, you know what? There's plenty of
the first time I put down one comic without finishing reading it was with one of the 2nd tier Liefeld books. It was Dooms 4. My friend had bought the miniseries.
Man.
He bought it because he liked to read comics that were optioned for movies. So he bought it, and he let me borrow them, and I read them, and I read number 1, and that thing was so bad. I'm not going to read number 2 to 4. I gained nothing from it.
What I liked about the early issues of Brigade and Bloodstrike was they were creating characters just to kill them. So there was death. But then sometime, like in issues 6, 7, 8, they started bringing everybody back. It turned out nobody died. And I was just like, to heck with it.
Yeah, because they wanted to make toys.
Right. I was like, what
Besides,
I liked about it was they died.
Besides, Peter B. Gillis had already came up with a comic where the heroes died.
Huh.
It was Strike Force Morituri.
I'm wondering if back then, if you could take a random script from one of those comics and a random script from a professional wrestling organization.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank, do like ad-libs, fill in the blanks, you just change the name of the character, the wrestler, and if they would mingled with each other without much modification.
That is an interesting exercise.
Huh. One more comic I got, I think, is European. It's A Thing Called Truth by Olanda Zanfardino and Eliza Romboli.
Might be.
And let me check the indicia, as a matter of fact.
Who's the publisher?
Image Comics. It's it's owned by the two creators. Doesn't say a studio like that other one does. But I say that because and the storytelling is very manga, very Japanese. But and it's a typical story about a scientist who works real hard, then gets her work stolen. But it actually takes place in Europe.
Yeah.
So that's what leads me to believe it's European, because not only are the names European, but that doesn't mean they can't be American too, of course. Lots of us from Europe over here.
Well, the creators have Italian names.
Yes. That's what made the fact that where is it? Where were they? There was somewhere in here. I think she drove from or got driven from Germany down to Italy or something like that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that
you just have to go through.
That made me think the creators are European too.
Yeah, you just have to go through Switzerland, and then you're in Italy.
Yeah, so I wouldn't think that. We've just arrived in Italy. In Italy, I don't think American creators are setting a story about scientists in Italy.
No.
So
yeah,
I'm
even if an American, I was gonna say, if an American creator does a comic with a foreign scientist, it's usually a Godzilla comic.
But the art, like I said, very Disney by way of Japan.
There are a lot of artists like that in Europe right now.
Yeah, look.
Especially when they're under 30.
Yeah, lots of yelling and exactly. Very influenced by anime and manga. Lots of shouting.
Nani?
That was an enjoyable, not particularly interesting, but enjoyable. Not groundbreaking in any way. Dr. Mag discovers that stepping outside your comfort zone for one night can lead to absurd consequences, like waking up to find yourself in another country, having been kidnapped by an attractive woman while sleeping off the night before in your car. But is that a bad thing? That in no way that's like the last 4 pages. Like the first 20 pages were her being a scientist and eventually getting ripped off.
Isn't that the plot to Harold and Kumar go to White Castle?
I don't know. It's been a while.
I've never seen that movie.
Not defending this art of any, but as a child, they were pretty exhilarating. Yeah, I'll defend those. Or in hindsight, I'll defend those Image comics as art because nothing like that exists anymore. I think that they're an interesting time capsule. They're an interesting seat of your pants artists in charge of their own destiny comics, and very uncorporate. Very anything can happen. Not the, I'm not going to tell you they're the best comics ever, but there were some good ones. And in hindsight, I think they're more interesting than I thought they were at the time. I enjoyed the issues of Supreme. I know Superman ripped it off, but I enjoyed it. I recently reread the Alan Moore Supreme. I didn't like it that much. I remember liking it better when I read some of it earlier on. Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan are still swarmed to this day. People love their Ric.
Were those books that Moore worked on for Image, were they coming out at about the same time as the ABC stuff that he did?
A little later, memory serves.
Okay, I'm just curious. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Supreme was 2 or 3 years before ABC.
Okay.
What about? I'm thinking Wildcats. Was that before ABC or after?
Wildcats must have been around the same time as Supreme.
Okay, yeah, could be. I don't know.
Because he was doing. I think he was the last Wildcats writer, or was that James Robinson?
Yeah, I think there was someone after him.
Before DC bought Wildstorm.
Right. Yeah, I think James Robinson was there. Alan Moore's Wildcats is one of my favorite. And that sleeper omnibus I showed you before, one of the best, actually the best thing to come out of Alan Moore's Wildcats is that sleeper omnibus.
That just makes me think of the Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, because the villain in the sleeper omnibus is from Alan Moore's Wildcats. Tau, tactically augmented organism. And he was in that sleeper omnibus. He's just one of my favorite villains ever. He's barely there. You only kind of see the results he gets, and it's all cloak and dagger stuff. But really, really, I'm remembering, one of the interest. What Tau can do, his superpower is he can talk to you and get you to do things, and you think it's your idea. So it's not like the Purple Man.
Yeah.
The Purple Man who you're in his thrall and you have to do whatever he says. He talks to you and he just talks you into doing stuff. And you think it's a good idea and think it's your idea. And I'm going to spoil Point Blank for anyone out there. The 20-year-old comic, so I'm going to spoil it. Point Blank led into the sleeper omnibus. So it's like the sleeper omnibus is about this guy named Carver, Aaron Carver. It stars him, and he's a spy superhero who's in deep cover in Tau's organization. But before that story, what led up to that was a little 4-issue miniseries called Point Blank, starring Grifter. And Grifter, and it's using all these Wildstorm characters. Grifter was one of them, and one of Grifter's friends' boss was the Nick Fury of the Wildstorm universe is this guy named Lynch, and he got shot, and Grifter was trying to track down who shot him. Except Grifter's not a detective, is not very good at it, and keeps running into dead ends. But then it turns out, this is the spoiling part. At the end of it, we find out that it was Grifter who shot Lynch. Tau talked him into it, and then talked him into forgetting it. And then he found out it was him, and Tao talked him into forgetting it again. So it's like the series ends with Grifter back where he was at the beginning, not remembering that it was him who shot Lynch. And it's just so well done, this noir story.
Did he also shoot J.R. Ewing as well?
No, he may have.
Okay.
He may have. And the last comic I got for a week is another one of these graphic novels / European graphic albums from Aftershock. And this is After Dark, a horror anthology.
God, I hate that logo.
Yeah, it's... Anytime you're like, ooh, let's use one font to say this and one font to say that, it just rarely works in my estimation. It's like, did you really need to use the After logo from Aftershock? You didn't. That logo's not going to sell. And you've got the Aftershock logo right there, so you didn't need, but you know, whatever. I'm not in charge of it.
Yeah.
But it's got 4 stories in it. Colin Bunn and Cliff Richards, Joe Pruitt and Sisman Kodransky, Jim Starlin, Nicole Jelenich, and Frank Thierry and Joe Eisma. And I
was ran Caliber Comics.
Yeah, I think he does a lot of. He might be the one who's behind. He might be the main guy behind Aftershock. I know Mike Martz runs it.
Don't know.
Yeah, Joe Pruitt, publisher, CC.
Okay.
Mike Martz is the editor-in-chief.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he's the one who talked Mike Martz. Mike Martz was the Batman editor at the time. He talked him into coming over to Aftershock. But you know, anthology, 4 horror stories, not groundbreaking, but and it's $7 for a 40-page graphic album. I'm okay with that.
That's decent.
But I'd say it's on the level with. Did you guys read any of those like DC mystery comics from the late 70s, early 80s? Ghosts, House of Secrets. They're anthologies.
Everyone wants the Blue Moon, you know, but not on a regular basis.
It's kind of like that. It reminds me of that kind of. There's always good art in them. The stories were 10-page stories. You can't do a ton with 10-page stories.
There was a really good series of 4 books that Dark Horse did. I don't know, 7 to 10 years ago, somewhere through there. And the way they were marketed was just 4 standalone hardcovers. It was the Dark Horse book of, you know, horror, what have you. But those are really good. And they're all horror-based. But see, they've compiled them now. And going to put them out in just one trade paperback.
Okay.
It's more affordable that way. But those stories are really good.
Yeah, like I said, those like Marvel and DC. I think DC had more of them in the late 70s. I started probably buying them in the early 80s. They always had good artists on them who could tell a story, but there was never anything special in them.
And a lot of cases, the covers were better than the interiors.
Right. The covers were always excellent.
Like when you had Bernie Wright's and included covers. And,
my museum cover of the week that's on top of my printer is an old, early 70s House of Secrets Bernie Wrightson cover. Hold on, let me get it out of this. It's full. This comic is not.
Have you got it double Mylar?
Well, no. Well, yes, but no.
Okay, that's fine.
This one's even falling apart. This is the Mylar it's actually in all the time. Look at this. It's torn up over on the side. It's got that much overhang. Yeah. So even getting it back in the bag.
Also, the other ones you're put it on the printer stand.
Yeah, that's the Mylar that I slip every book in and out as it sits on my
makes sense.
Printer for the week. So this is how it goes back on my shelf. And then when it goes on top of my printer, I take the last week's out of here and put this week's in here. Because I don't board everything. So it's fun when I have it out, I can pick it up with the board on it.
Yeah, I found if you get 4 mil Mylar, you don't need a board.
Yeah. I have a lot of my stuff even is in the 2 mil Mylar. You don't really need a board. But the 4 mil, you definitely don't. But occasionally I still put... Have you seen... Oh, what's the guy's name? Arkham Asylum. He's got a YouTube channel. I don't think he actually interacts with any other YouTuber.
No, I don't think so.
So if it's like if you haven't stumbled onto him, you probably won't. But he makes a video about once a week, and he also he's from Vegas, and he's got a little shop. Well, he used to have a little shop like in a flea market in Vegas where he'd sell comics, and his whole thing is he likes to get sort of high grade, mid range, high grade comics, but not expensive high grade comics. Like he'd like, high grade, that House of Secrets from the 70s. He'd like, that's what he likes to buy and sell. Sort of stuff in the $10 to $20 range.
Does he do like DC war books too? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he's got a story that always that he's told a few times that always moves me. When he was a kid, there was another older guy who got him into comics, who I think was the guy was still young, but he was older than Arkham Asylum was. He was like 20 or something.
Yeah.
And he got Arkham, and one of the first books he got was a DC war book called Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, I remember that
one. Right. That was like the first comic he got, and this guy gave it to him. But then this guy died really young, like a couple of years later.
Mm-hmm.
So every time he sees a copy of Blitzkrieg #1, he buys it and remembers this guy. And he tells you that story whenever he shows you a Blitzkrieg #1.
Right.
So that story always touches me whenever he tells it. But he, like I said, he deals in comics. At least he doesn't have he said he doesn't have a stall right now for whatever reason, but he wants to open up another stall or store it sometime.
That's cool.
But I think, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 backing boards he puts into his more expensive comics. Just because he likes the feel of it. Because he's trying to sell these, $20 comics.
Yeah. Is he putting them in like polypropylene bags, or is he using Mylar too?
Mylar and fullbacks, I think it is even.
How can he fit 3 fullbacks in a bag?
Because he uses the bigger size.
He uses the
modern book. He uses the silver bag, that sort of thing. He's got the system.
Okay. That makes sense.
He showed his system off many times over the times I've been watching him.
Right.
But he's like I think if people find the comic more substantial and valuable when they pick it up and it's stiff and heavy. I was like, you know what? I think he's onto something. If you want to sell sort of a high grade $20 comic that people are used to paying $5 for. And I think he said it's like 25 cents a comic to put the extra boards in there. So it's like, you know what?
If he sells them for more money, he recoups his,
it's like
supply.
25 cents a comic, I'll do that because I like it better that way, and it makes it more saleable to me.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, I'd never do.
It's almost like a psychological experiment.
Yeah. And it's true though, because like these comics, especially these comics, right? Even when it's got the double bag and sometimes a double board, I like holding it better because it's just kind of
a tactile thing.
Yeah. But of course, I would never do that with all of like he I normally don't board my comics, but I boarded Gun Honey only because it's going into my bought just for their covers section. Because I handle my bought just for their covers section more than my normal comics. Because that's where I go.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I want to look at a cool cover, I know those ones have cool covers because that's the only reason they're there.
Gotcha. I didn't think about
So
it.
I can just go over and shuffle through them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm never going to read them because I don't necessarily like what's in the comic.
You should have one of those digital picture frames where you can just cycle the cover images on it.
Well, I use my iPad for that. Like
okay.
I have Wonder Woman from 1 to the one it ended covers, just because I found them all on the internet one day, and I put them all into one, and I do that some like Amanda Connor.
Mm-hmm.
I like her Harley Quinn covers,
right?
But I don't want to buy Harley Quinn, and I don't want to have a shelf full of Harley Quinn that I always like the covers on.
Right.
So I downloaded I just found just the covers. I don't want the comic.
Mm-hmm.
Put the covers on the internet, put them into one CBZ file, and I can just look through the covers on my iPad. I find that's the best way which is why I haven't bought that many just for their covers in recent years, because I've been doing it digitally.
Yeah.
And there's other ones like Red Sonja from Dynamite.
Oh, so the Dynamite run? Okay.
For years now, they've been putting out 5 or 6 covers an issue. Some pretty nice covers, too. I used to buy the book way back when, just one cover, though. And so I started collecting those digitally, too. So I have a file full of Dynamite Red Sonja covers, just because they're kind of cool. Scott's falling asleep. Anything? You get anything interesting?
Well, here's why. Okay, there's 2 things. It's daylight savings time is kicked in, so it gets dark at like 5 p.m. now.
Oh yeah.
And I just recently rejoined the working world, so I'm not staying up, 30 hours at a time and then sleeping for 18 like I used to.
So your sleep schedule is all off.
Oh yeah, it's big time different.
And so is Paulo's.
It's going to take a while to get used to it.
Yeah, it's not only I was on the 7 to 4 shift, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now I'm back on the 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it's not only that. The daylight savings time ended when I was halfway through the 7 a.m. 4 p.m. shift, and I'm still waking up 1 or 2 hours before I need to.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I've been up an hour before I need to all this week. I've been pretty tired all week.
I have discovered
6, and I've been getting up around 5. Well, not actually getting up, just waking up. I still lay there for an hour because why get up?
Yeah. I've discovered with me is like, the people that work jobs in extreme northern climates where it's dark all the time. I could do that with no problem.
I buy comics for their covers, just like guys read Playboy for the articles. Yeah, there are people like Comic Crypt of Castle Hills.
Mm-hmm.
He buys everything for. He buys everything for and he buys a lot of stuff.
There's certain artists I would follow, just like Bernie Rice and Mike Kaluta, and did covers for stuff. So I would buy those just for the covers.
Yeah,
that's because of the artist. It's not.
I was actually just thinking about what to call like. You've noticed now that a lot of people make a distinction between the newsstand edition and the direct edition, even though they're the same thing.
Yeah.
With just a missing UPC. It would be like if 2 companies distributed Blu-rays. One company had red trucks and one company had blue trucks. And so the one company's UPCs were red, the others were blue, except that the blue company was smaller. And if DVD collectors would be like, "Ooh, I got the blue UPC." I mean, it's like everything else is exactly the same. The cover art, the movie on the disc is all. The only thing different is that UPC and the truck that brought it somewhere.
And record collectors are laughing at all these guys like that's cute because they will buy the most obscure printing from something that had only like 26 copies released in Italy. But it's other than that, it's exactly the only thing different is the serial number on the spine.
But at least those are different printings.
Right.
I mean, I can understand people being interested in that's something at least that has been going on since the beginning of time.
Oh yeah.
The first printing existed first, so therefore I want that. At least that makes some sort of sense in my head.
Right.
But what I was thinking, it's like these people who make a distinction between the newsstand and the UPC. First of all, I think it's because collectors need things to collect.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. And then people collecting just for their covers. I think cover collectors are people who aren't really interested in the contents of comic books anymore, but still like comic books.
Yeah, if they're only cover collectors, that makes sense. Yeah.
You don't buy you don't buy X-Men 94 direct edition and pay an extra 150% because you like the content. And well, that's a real collector. You don't buy 9 comics and never read them because you like the content of comics.
Right.
You don't even like comics. You still like the concept of comics, but you don't like actual comics. That's what I find interesting. Interesting about the whole business of cover artists. Seems like they're a special breed, only that it helps sell books. Yeah. And they can make more money. If you're an independent, it's less work for more money.
Usually.
That's why you're a cover artist. I collect by creator. If they made covers, I bought it. I just wanted all their work. Yeah. I can
that's what we were talking about earlier. I'd do that too.
Yeah. That I can understand. Collecting by creator. But somebody who like Comic Crypt of Castle Hills, he buys a lot of comics.
Yeah.
He just doesn't. He's not interested in the comics. He buys them because he likes buying them and he likes the covers. And he buys specialty.
Effectively, what he's buying is a much larger trading card.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's interesting though. It's like, I don't like comics, but I still like comics. Paolo cannot get caffeinated. He's got to go to bed.
It doesn't really matter. I've had an espresso after dinner. I had dinner 2 hours ago.
But
I'm the type of guy who can drink an espresso and go to bed and sleep like a rock.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm one of those weird people where caffeine has no effect on me whatsoever.
Yeah. I do have caffeine in chocolate, but it doesn't affect you the way caffeine in coffee does.
Right. Codeine also has no effect on me either.
Last time I took codeine was in high school, and I didn't like being loopy.
Doesn't even make me loopy. Yeah.
Made me loopy.
When I was having a kidney stone, they gave me Demerol to kill the pain. But I remember the nurse saying, "This is going to knock you out." I didn't even get sleepy. It killed the pain, which is exactly what I wanted it to do, but I was wide awake.
Fiasco to my advantage with just a little vocal prodding. Moonstone was vocal prodding the Hulk.
What happens when you prod the Hulk?
Hulk smash.
Here's a swamp. Here's a swamp where it says, "It sounds like the Hulk is tearing this place apart."
That's because he is.
Yup. They amuse me to no end. Huh?
I don't know
At
if
least I can
you
amuse
probably
myself.
wouldn't want to cut them up, but I imagine Howard the Duck comics would be good for this.
I have 2 Howard the Duck comics in the
Okay.
pile of stuff that my LCS owner gave me, so I'll be using them at some point. Matter of fact, there's a second deck. There's a second deck that came with that Magic the Gathering Arena starter kit. So I might have to. I was trying to decide what one to use with this. It might be Howard the Duck. Oh, there's a shiny one. Ooh.
Sparklies.
Sparkly cards. But yeah, I actually did those ones slightly different than my normal ones.
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine and sugar. happy, joy, yeah. Swamp Thing would make good Magic the Gathering cards. Yeah, Man Thing even.
Ambush Bug probably would.
Conan, I think, worked really well because there was a lot of it. In Conan number 40 that I had there, I don't know who drew it. I can't remember. It wasn't one of the big famous issues. A lot of good imagery in Conan. And of course, a Roy Thomas script gave ample opportunity to get balloons in, too.
Very much so. The only person I've seen that's got wordier word balloons is Fred Hembeck.
Hembeck. I actually did. Hold on, let me see if they're over here, or they might be in here. I actually did some Fred Hembeck just because. Are they in here? Or did they never get in? No, there they are. On one of the covers from the Comic Shop Weekly had some Fred Hembeck drawings on it. So I actually cut some up. Shipwreck Moray. There's a Dr. Fate Fred Hembeck.
Fred actually he makes his own sketch cards and sells them.
I have a couple. Rot Shambler. There's the Flash. Let's see. Touch of the Void. Oh, look, this is Hot Stuff. Reading Son of Satan. Let's see. Generator Servant. Captain Marvel holding Shazam. That was our thing. So it's like I just was like, you know what? I want to try using some of these Fred Hembecks from just on a few of them.
Yeah.
Hembeck. That needs to be re-lettered. Did you ever read his magazine?
Yeah, the ones he did through Fanica.
Turned into Magic.
Yeah, I have all those.
Ever turn into Magic the Gathering cards. There's the game. Matter of fact, let's see what else we have in Read, Rip, and Slab. Let's try. Here we go. 1982 annuals.
Oh boy.
82 annuals. 82 annuals.
Atlantis Attacks? No, it's a little.
No. Atlantis Attacks was 89.
Okay.
There we go. DC Comics Presents Annual 1, Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 7, Sergeant Rock Annual 2.
Well, that's easy for me.
I think that's Jerry Ordway on the DC Comics Presents.
So I'm going to rip that Marvel 2-in-1.
Before you do that, I recently saw that's a minor key.
It is?
Yes. It might be is that the first time the thing is hero?
No, it's the first appearance of the champion, one of the elders of the universe.
Ah, okay, the champion. That was it, right?
But I'm going to rip it.
You're gonna rip it,
and I'm going to read Sergeant Rock and Slab Superman.
I'm leaning in that direction myself.
Slab Sergeant Rock. Cool poster cover. Superman. I think. Oh, what? I don't know. None of these. I think I may have had all three of these at one time.
I don't
I'm
have
not
any.
even sure.
Yeah.
Rip Superman, Read Things, Slab Sergeant Rock.
Hmm.
I'm gonna slab the thing.
Yeah.
Read Sergeant Rock and Rip Superman.
I think that's what I would do too. Yeah.
Because the Champion is going to be a huge hit soon, and price will go through the roof of
I don't
mine.
even know who the Champion is.
I don't. One of the elders of the universe, did you say?
Yep.
Okay.
Must be older than me because I don't remember it.
Who did that? Is that a Ron Wilson cover?
Looks like it.
Was that his era?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And it looks like DC colored their covers with a different process that month.
Yeah, it's kind of washed out in place.
Yeah, it looks like
on purpose. Yeah.
who penciled the thing. I think that was the Ron Friends era, right? Is that who I just said? I can't even remember what I just said.
You said Ron Wilson, but yeah, but
Ron
when
Wilson.
I look at that Thor, looks more like Ron Friends because Friends drew Thor after Simonson.
I always got them confused because I think they were both on Marvel 2-in-1 around the same time. Ron Friends and Ron Wilson, and their styles
they were
are sort of
Kirby,
similar.
Yeah, Kirby clones.
Yeah, Kirby clones. I wonder what other stories are in that Sergeant Rock annual.
Can find out.
I think Joe Kubert did the lead.
Joe Kubert did a lot of war books.
He did.
A lot.
He did.
Let's see.
Did a lot. I made the paste up mashup cards out of Joe Kubert's Tarzan a couple weeks ago too. That was another book that some books I think work better than like that Hulk could be a bit of a struggle because it was a weird issue of the Hulk. And also I don't know how good modern comics would be. Or like 90s
which one it is. Yeah.
Because these all work better with small panels. Get away! You frighten me. These work better with small panels, with the word balloons close to people.
Right.
And like these comics with large panels and little type. I don't know if it would work. They'd be more like abstract art a lot of the time. Abstract art.
Looks like there's only one. Well, according to Grand Comics Database, there's really only one story. Well, no. It looks like there's really only one story in there.
Wow, Joe Kubert.
It's a 41-page story, and it was
wow.
It was penciled by Dan Spiegel.
Oh, penciled by Dan Spiegel. I'll see if I still have that one. I don't even know.
Robert Kanigher wrote it.
Okay.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Dan Spiegel's one of those guys who when reading his work, I don't find it very exciting, but I like looking at it. I like flipping through it and looking at it.
So you like looking at the Spiegel catalog.
Like what did he do? Black Hawk with Mark Evanier in the early 80s.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you worked a lot with Evanier.
Yeah, he did. I think they were buddies. They were Hollywood buddies too. I think they both worked in Hollywood.
Did he work on DNA Agents?
I don't think Spiegel did.
Okay.
Because Will Mignoit did Demon Agents, but who knows? Spiegel could have done some work on it because it was with Evan Ian.
Crossfire, maybe?
Yes, he drew Crossfire.
Okay, it's Crossfire.
Crossfire. We've discussed that famous Marilyn Monroe, Dave Stevens cover that's never there whenever you look for Crossfire. Yeah. Not that anyone is looking for Crossfire issues.
Well, if you have one, you have to have them all.
Yep. If you're interested in buying Crossfire, you want all of the Crossfires.
Right.
Why not? I have all of the Crossfires. But I bought it off the shelf, but had to fill in a couple of issues. It's amazing how in the 80s sometimes, because I always had a pull list all through the 80s.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I was just thinking of what other comics do you have complete runs of?
I have complete runs of a lot of comics, but the run is only 20 issues because I'm an indie guy.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let's say series with 50 or more issues.
I have a complete run of Usagi Yojimbo,
including Albedo and all the early. Okay.
Usagi Yojimbo, not Albedo.
I see okay, fair enough. I see what you mean. Gotcha.
Because I started buying it with issue 1, and I bought every issue since. What else do I have a full run of? Stuff. Trying to think. There's stuff that's come out recently. Like I've got a full run. I've got a full run of a lot of stuff that's come out since Image stuff that's gone that many. Like Wicked and the Divine, full run of. That stuff. Fear Agent, full run of. But I bought it as it was coming out.
Right.
I have full runs of Dark Horse Presents, volumes 1, 2, and 3.
That's impressive.
But I bought them all as they came out.
Right.
So it's that's right. Savage Dragon. I have a full run of Savage Dragon. I had to go back and get because I didn't start buying Savage Dragon regularly till around issue 70. But I went back and got issues 1 through 60 because it wasn't that hard.
Right.
You ever buy some comics and then feel really sad? What happened was
really.
Well, that's because there's a story that goes with the really sad.
Gotcha.
I was looking to fill in Savage Dragon stuff, buying some stuff here, and then I saw it may have been Savage Dragon 1 to 70 even. On eBay, cheap. I mean, Savage Dragon 1 to 70. I don't know how much I paid for it. Somewhere between $50 and $100. I don't think it even got up there. Not expensive though. For 70 issues of a comic.
Right.
And I got it, and there was a note in it from the woman who sold them to me. It's like, oh, thanks for buying these. My husband's a comic fan, but he's sick. I had to raise some money. And I was just like,
Yeah. I see what you mean, yeah.
In this country, when you're sick, you got to sell your comics. What kind of world do we live? What kind of country do we live in? It's not always the rest of the world. I was like, the only reason I got that. And I was like, ooh, I figured I got him off of some dealer or someone who was getting rid of his back stuff. It was some Savage Dragon fan from way back who was getting rid of stuff to raise money because he was sick. I was like,
I saw Chuck Rosansky had a little post about that's one of the drawbacks to his job when you buy these big collections. Sometimes you realize people have to sell them to make money, under less than ideal circumstances. And sometimes drag,
Yeah, I think I read that one too. Yeah. We were talking before about Stormwatch. Complete volumes 1, 2, and 3.
I really don't have a lot of complete runs. I have a complete run of the Micronauts. I have a complete run of Gru.
Well, unless you're an indie collector, you're not going to have a ton of complete runs.
Even as an indie collector, I don't have a lot of complete runs. I have some, but not a whole bunch.
Because Marvel and DC usually their series are all 8 issues. Now you can have a complete run of Superman, 12 issues or something, or whatever comic.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm about 4 issues shy of having a complete run of Concrete.
I have a complete run of Concrete, all the different series.
That's what I'm saying. I have like everything Concrete's ever done except for like 4 issues. I think.
In Portugal, if you're sick, you might have time to read all your comics before you get your free care. Yes, much more civilized.
No, you do. We do get free healthcare, but we have to wait. Until
same thing I've heard about in England too. Is like you have to wait.
And it's not free. You think you don't have to wait around here, and it's not free. You pay taxes for it.
We pay taxes for it.
We pay taxes and get atomic bombs. Stuff we can't ever use.
That's debatable.
All we have to do is slice off a little bit of our defense budget, and we could cover everybody in this country. But that's not our priorities, for whatever reason.
Well, you can run for office, become Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, shut it all down. Yeah, right.
Let's drop that bomb.
Kaboom.
No, that's not Secretary of Defense. That's a little higher office than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Evolving Wilds cards, I think there was 3 or 4 of them, because in Magic you can have duplicate cards in the same set. I put panels of them being thrown around. That's Doc Samson after he was punched by the Hulk. So I think it went with the Evolving Wilds name.
Not Evolving Wild Storm, but just Evolving Wilds.
This is how weird this issue of the Hulk was, okay? Mm-hmm. Issue 228. For some reason, Doc Samson talked him into coming onto the Hulkbuster base so he can help him and test the Hulk. And so they even gave the Hulk a bed to sleep in at night. Hulk is tired, but Hulk not used to bed. It feel funny.
It fun talk like Hulk. Not sure why, but it fun.
It was like Hulk sleeping in a bed. It was just weird. All tucked in. And here's the question. Does Hulk need blankets when he goes to bed? Or will he be warm without blankets? What's the Hulk's temperature? I don't know.
Depends on the writer.
You'd think it's very, very hot. I mean, he has deadly deadly radiation inside of him.
And a pillow. If you're invulnerable, do you need a pillow? Do you need some? I mean, we need something soft under our head because we're not invulnerable.
Right.
We can't. If we lay our head on a rock, we'll have a hard time sleeping because a rock is hard. But will the Hulk notice a difference between putting his head on a rock or a pillow?
That's a good question.
These are the burning questions. The only full runs I kept from 5,000 plus comic selection I sold off years ago was Bone and Starman. Okay.
Yeah, I need to fill in the issues of Bone that I don't have.
I have a complete run of Finder. There's one.
I don't. I have several issues of Finder, but I don't have a complete run of it.
That just popped into my head. Oh, I have a complete run of Palookaville. No one cares about that.
I might have a complete run of Castle Waiting. Maybe.
I do not. I was onto that late and only bought collected editions.
Yeah, I might. I may be wrong about that too.
I have a complete run of Alan Moore's Voodoo, but that was like 4 issues. So I have a lot of those titles.
There's a very, very obscure title that Bill Willingham did. It's called Coventry. There's only 3 issues. I have a complete run of Tyrant from Steve Bissett.
Okay. Wasn't that only 3 issues? I might have. I don't even know if I do. I haven't seen it in so long. Oh, I have a complete run of Prometheus. That was only 27 issues.
Oh, I do have a complete. I do have a complete run of whatchamacallit. Oh God, Benjamin Snow. Planetary.
A Planetary. Yeah, I got a complete run of Planetary.
Took me a long time to find that last issue.
I had it on my pull list, so. Like all my complete run, just 95% of my complete runs are just pull list in time. I've I don't know 3 or 4 complete runs of cross-gen books because I bought them as they came out.
I own either 1 or 2 cross-gen books. Period.
They put out Negation is the one I've been rereading and making videos of. That's my favorite of them. Matter of fact, that's one of my all-time favorite comics is Negation. Mm-hmm. It's up there in my list of top 100 whatever.
Right.
I always say top 100 because that gives me a lot of room to put stuff on. But that one might even be top 25.
Well, you could put top 10 in there and just do it 10 times in a row.
Top 10. But being that I don't like to make lists like that, I never really know where it would be.
I have complete runs of stuff in compilations like hardcovers, but not in flop.
Yeah, I don't think that counts. I got those too. When you only have to get one book, it just doesn't count. And there, lots of people have like a complete collection of the Spider-Man in books. That's easy.
Yeah.
I have a complete collection of Battlefield from Atlas Comics in the 1950s in a book. Paolo wants to sleep. Yes, he does.
In a while.
In a while. First, he's got to reach his bedtime.
I am past my bedtime.
Cycle, right.
You don't have a certain
dream.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't have a certain pasty-skinned guy with black hair and a circle on your floor, do you?
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You're not Roderick Burgess.
Oh, and here is, I don't remember what this character's name was from the Hulk, but he's on the Hulkbuster base, tucking in the Hulk.
Jim Wilson.
That's Jim Wilson? Okay.
Yeah.
Was he around in the Herb Trimpe era?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I know him from then. Jim Wilson tucking in the Hulk.
It's so weird to think that Herb Trimpe's last project was a Hellboy project.
Wow. Carla, my God, you can't handle the Hulk. I'm coming in.
There's one for the out of context group.
I'll have to find that group and post some of my cards to it.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it. Here we go.
Grief.
Dream or no dream, nobody does that to the Hulk. That's what Paolo's going to be shouting. I think Moonstone was trying to. Friend. Oh dear, what fun.
When you say Moonstone, I think of Moonstone Publishing, which is the company who had basically, I think, Dynamite bought all the rights to the properties out from under them.
Ah, I remember them.
They're publishing like the Phantom and
okay.
Some other ones like mostly noir related titles.
I was just hearing something about IDW. I occasionally check in with Ethan Van Sciver's channel when he has a whole bunch of artists on. Last as long as I can on that channel. But I forget who he had on. He has he's got his artist friends on there selling stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of them was talking about I think he was doing some work with IDW, like a creator-owned book. But there's something with, like, when you do a creator-owned book with IDW, he ended up owing them money.
That's weird.
Because it's like there's like a 50-50 split of profits, but that's after IDW makes their money back that they put into it. So he was just like, just didn't work out for me. I had never thought of that before. Nude beach tucking in the Hulk. That Hulk. I want a dream style artwork for my blank comic covers. Can you do Shazam or Superman in that style? Possibly. We'll have to see. I'll have to see. Blank comic. The problem is when you start doing real characters, it gets less dreamy. But we'll see. I'll have to think about that.
You can put in a lot of mist.
A lot of mist. I can draw grass in the Avengers Mansion like Rob Liefeld one. He didn't want to bother drawing their feet.
And you have a missed opportunity.
All of a sudden they're standing and tall. That's why Rob Liefeld always defends himself on that whole feet thing. And I can understand that. It's like, yeah, and he's always, not everybody draws feet. And, you know, he points out where other artists don't draw feet. And I'm always like, but he made it obvious. There'd be times where there's supposed to be feet in drawing and he just didn't draw them. Or he drew tall grass in Avengers Mansion. Inside. It's like, what? Where did that grass come from?
Inside.
Yeah, I forget. That was in one of those Heroes Reborn issues. I forget which one. I just remember laughing at it, looking at it, going,
The only artist that ever draw tall grass that made it interesting was Bernie Wrightson.
We'll see what I can do. I do have some. Let me see if I have some of my. Here are my dream style covers. Ooh, I even did both sides on this one. That have nothing to do with the comic inside. I haven't done one of these in a while, but for a while, I was putting the board inside so I could see. But it's like, there is a Justice League sketch cover. Let's see, this is a Captain America. God, when did I do these? I did these in 2014. Wow, time flies. I haven't done one in a while. There's a Captain America cover.
Mm-hmm.
That one's just the front. There's a Defenders cover. A Hulk #1. There's another wraparound. I wonder which Hulk #1 this was. Once again, 2014. I guess I did a bunch of these in 2014. It has nothing to do with the Hulk. It's just me wanting to draw on a comic cover.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Walking Dead zombie pinup girl.
She does look like a zombie.
Oh, and this is my... I actually did the character on this one in my Buckethead style. I was developing this style for a while just because I was developing a cute kid style. So I made what I call these Bucketheads.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Legos, but with smaller necks.
Yeah. Just that whole, general cute big head thing.
All right.
Wow, I haven't had these out in a long time. It's amazing to see stuff you forgot existed.
That's the only advantage I can ever see to moving. With finding stuff you forgot that you even knew that you had.
Spot on. Glad you like it. Oh, you know, who was it? Dr. Silverage. No, who was it? Yeah, I think it was Dr. Silverage. Showed that if you're using Mylar, if you cut the flaps at a 45-degree angle, then they fold right in. No need for tape or stickers. They fold right in after you cut them at a 45-degree angle. So I've done that with a lot of mine, and these ones are thin. These are the Mylites that are like 1.5 mil. I don't like these ones very much. I think the books came in them though.
Yeah.
But they're very thin, and I find they tear. That one's already in that.
Yeah, the thinner ones are prone to tearing along the welds. Yeah.
Right along the seam at top, they tear, and it's like, This is what I was doing for like one that I do a wraparound that I want to see the back cover of. I put a backing board in the middle.
Do you know there are companies that make completely transparent backing boards?
Yeah, and they're expensive.
Yeah, they are.
I could do that. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with Patreon. So, but I was thinking about that. I was also thinking about putting stuff on my Etsy again, but I'm gonna have to do that because what's weird. I have an Etsy that I've had for years that I haven't had anything on in a little while.
Yeah.
But now you can sell digital stuff on Etsy too. Except they have a really like I wanted to sell my digital art magazine that I've been doing. But it's 68 pages, and like the limit of an Etsy digital thing is like 24 megs. So I had to crunch it down real small.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, now I'm gonna tell people if you want to get this, I'll send you a link for a higher res one too, because I have it on my Dropbox high res. High res is only like 128 megabytes. But what's weird is Etsy wants you to use a video to sell stuff. Like you can now upload a video to Etsy to sell your handcrafted stuff. And the limit of the video is 100 megabytes. The limit of the thing you're selling is 25 megabytes. It's like, come on. A superhero book where the character is made out of a mound of feet. Make Rob draw it. There being a kid in the 90s stressing over bags and boards and everything now is reader copies throw around. Yeah. I'm actually before the age of boards, so all my stuff is in bags, but not everything's in boards. These are in boards because it's my artwork, and I want to keep it good. If anything's going to be in the board, it's going to be something I spent 12 hours on. Hulk #1. I don't even remember what Hulk #1 this is. Kid, Hawkeye. I don't know which Hawkeye #1 this is either.
Well, I noticed they had solicited one of the books in the new previews. It was the Usagi color reprints. But they labeled the series as like the name of whatever the name of the story arc #1. And I was looking at it. It didn't dawn on me before. I was like, "Oh my God! If they started Usagi over again and just give it a different." No.
Yeah, well, all the reprint series are miniseries.
Right. But I was looking at thinking it was like the main book, and I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, we've got Usagi Volume 4.
Like, God, they start over at #1 again.
Yeah, they started the cut. They started it over at #1 again, and each reprint miniseries is a #1.
Right.
You know what? I don't blame them anymore. It annoys me, but I don't blame them. If a number 1 sells 100 copies and a number 21 sells 17,
it's like
what are you going to do?
in somewhere in the edition on the different Hellboy title, and also Craig Russell did this with things he did. He'd put a little label as "This is number 52 in an ongoing series."
Yeah, like Marvel had legacy numbering on their stuff for a while. I think boards became popular in the 80s.
I was going to say early 80s, I think.
I wouldn't even say early 80s because I'm really an early 80s guy in terms of collectors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were around, but I'm just saying people didn't start automatically putting their stuff in bags and boards till the late 80s, I'd say. Because I started putting my stuff in bags in the early 80s, and boards weren't even a consideration. They weren't even in my mind. I barely knew they existed.
Right.
So I have to figure, and I didn't start noticing them everywhere till 5 years after that. I draw a lot of my old boards. Some of those acid-free ones are pretty good quality cardstock. Ah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Good drawing paper. Boards. I never saw them, but I kind of stopped collecting in the late 80s. Yeah, I think it was in the late 80s. It was definitely by the early 90s, everything was bagged and boarded. If you were buying,
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man, you were bagging and boarding it. So sometime between 85 and 90, it became the norm. I couldn't tell you exactly when. But from 80 to 85, it definitely wasn't, because that was my era, my high school era, and I would have been doing it if it was the norm, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, and I even learned way back then that I vastly preferred polypropylene to the polyethylene bags because they looked clearer.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mylar comes in. There's oh, the hell with both of them.
Mylar was so expensive back then because all they had was the 4 mil.
Yeah.
With the Mylar.
Over the long run, it's cheaper. Yeah.
What was that?
Said over the long run, it's cheaper.
Yeah, but in the short term, it's really expensive.
We've only started selling books and magazines in plastics last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
There are a couple of places that sell old magazines. They had comics from the 80s, and they were bagged, not boarded.
Yeah, I've said they've had Life magazine size bags for a long time, but there weren't any boards for them. And of course, you still get Life magazine.
There's a couple places where you can get Treasury size bags and boards, and also Mylars too.
Well, if you go to egerber.com, they have most everything there. They have all the Mylar stuff.
Yeah.
They're the Mylar people. But you can't order through the website. You have to call them up. That puts a lot of people off. I wonder if the pre-polybagged from the stuff gets slabbed, or you think the company takes them out of the package. It's awful.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Polybagged stuff from the I now know from watching the New York Warriors that it used to be you kept one and you kept one in the polybag. Nowadays, people say take them out of the polybag because if you want to get it slabbed, they take it out of the polybag, and the polybag can actually damage the condition of the comic.
Right.
So if you want a 9/8 whatever came in a polybag in 1992. You want it out of the polybag. And it used to not be that way, but now it is. Bags and boards are classics. We need digital versions of it. Yeah, NFTs for digital bags. Yeah.
And then we also need, digital, what's the buffer paper that you put in to prevent
the micro-chambered paper?
The microchamber. We need digital microchamber papers. What we need. As an NFT.
Do you know? I got the back before the iPhone. I think it was before the iPhone. The iPod Touch, I think, was before the iPhone. And I got one of those because I was looking for something like that for keep my photos on.
Yeah.
And it was the very beginning of the age of apps. You know, there people were just starting to make apps. No one knew what to do with them. No, one of the first apps I got for my
There's the Nano right there.
There's their iPod. The touch one is the touch screen.
Yeah.
Was a Zippo lighter app. All you did, it made all the sounds. You flip it open, you make it light.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't actually do anything. Yeah, you can get microchamber paper yourself. It keeps moisture out of the comic, or takes moisture from the comic or something.
Mm.
But they also, like, when you get a comic slabbed, they put like 2 sheets of microchamber paper in the comic in the slab. You wouldn't actually own those digital bags and boards. Yeah, you have to rent them. You have to pay your bag and board subscription fee, $3 a month.
Oh, we haven't even talked about virtual boxes yet.
Yeah, micropaper is like silica gel. Not eating.
Sort of.
Silica gel for comics.
Somebody, I can't remember which company it is. Somebody makes a box that has the word I'm looking for, has a membrane that goes around the box itself, and it your seals. So you have an actually hermetically sealed box.
Ah, probably a vacuum sealer.
Yeah, you do hook it up to vacuum sealer.
Microchamber box.
Yeah,
vacuum like for your food.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Only
same
for your comics. Mm-hmm. Oh, what about I wonder if you know those ones that work with your vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
It's for storing clothes. You put your clothes in a bag and put the vacuum up to it, and it sucks all the air out. It makes the clothes real small. Wonder if you could put one of those around your comic box. Vacuum seal your comics.
You could. I don't know how long those are designed to last.
Yeah, I don't either. You couldn't get to your comics either. You'd be like, oh, where's that issue of Batman?
It's like, you've got a slabbed issue. I've got a slabbed box. I mean, what's next? You get to the point where you just slab the whole 18-wheeler truck that delivers them. Yeah. I've got a slab semi. Yeah.
If you don't take care of your Amazing Fantasy 15, it goes down a grade. Made from acid-resistant zeolite technology, whatever that is. Wow. Keep your digital comic. Yeah, if you don't, once a month, you got to look at your digital comic and check its condition. Otherwise, it goes down a grade.
Oh my God, your comics could have malware attacks.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You have to get Norton antivirus for your comic collection.
Yeah, it used to be a 10, but it looks like the digital bugs have been chewing on it, so you got some spine damage there. Yeah.
Otherwise, your Action Comics #1 goes from an 8.0 to a 5.0.
Slight foxing, yeah.
Jared, was it you that told the story about wacko gimmick covers that went to a fire department for fire training to burn their... No, in their burn classes. That was not me. I haven't heard of that one. Oh, well, we're getting to our end of our show now. We can let Paolo go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
And again.
All right, so all you people out there, have a good night. And we will catch you next time.
Yeah. And don't slab your boxes.
Don't slab your boxes. No, vacuum seal them. Come on. And make sure your digital comics stay 10.0.
When it goes to 11.